Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris. Thank you for joining me today. In this episode of A Glimpse Inside, we are turning our attention to family game night, especially with dominoes. These are a favorite around here, and this entire domino was made with nothing but resin and CA glue. And by the thumbnail, you've already seen it. There's a mahogany box I made, but the cool part is that the entire lid is made from resin as well, and it's reversible. This was a fun project. I want to thank my good friends at TOTALBOAT for helping me and sponsoring this video. Let's get into this and let's see how we did it. Let's go. Okay, we're gonna start off by mixing up a batch of TOTALBOAT's 2-to-1 high performance resin. This is a pretty easy process. It's a 2-to-1 ratio as the name implies. And after you mix some color in from Black Diamond, we're gonna go ahead and transition this into a different cup, a cleaner cup that doesn't have any of that unmixed resin on the sides and on the bottom. After that, we're gonna take a syringe. You can get these at your local pharmacy. These are oral syringes. If you just ask, they'll probably give you a few. I'm sure they will if you're nice enough. And you don't really need a reason. And if they ask you for a reason, you can tell them you're doing resin. A lot of times in my experience, well, they say, cool, and they give them over. So give it a shot. Quite frankly, the reason these syringes are great is because you can repeat the amount, the volume every single time, which is key to doing this domino mold. And those you see above that, those are some gummy bears that didn't quite work out. Don't worry about that. I figured it's probably not a good idea to have unedible gummy bears around with the kids, so not a smart decision, but they turned out good too. All right, so I'm gonna demold these dominoes, and at this point, they look really great. Honestly, the finish is great, but they could use a little bit more detail. And how I'm gonna do that is some of this medium black CA glue. Again, I've got coupon codes down below for all this stuff, TOTALBOAT and CA glue and Starbond. If you wanna check these things out, both of them, you can save 15%. So give it a look in the description. So one of the cool parts about when you order glue from Starbond is that each bottle comes with multiple nozzles, including this precision applicator. You get quite a few of these in each order, which is really nice because to use its full capacity in the way you really want to, it comes with it, so it's great. All right, as you see, I've kind of taken my time and I filled these holes, but there's a little bit of detail that's not there, and that's that, well, as you see here, as I top these holes off, it's that middle line. The mold had a very small recess, and that applicator worked wonders putting that line in. So now it's time to make the box to go ahead and store these dominoes. You don't want to make these things and not have anywhere to put them. And instead of just buying some container, why not? We're woodworkers, we're makers, this is what we do. So I've got some mahogany left over from some dining tables that I made, and I'm gonna run them through the drum sander real quick. You don't need to do this. You can simply cut them on the table saw and then give them a light sanding by hand and you'll be fine. But I wanted them to be a little bit thinner, and I didn't want to cut this thin of a piece on the table saw, so it's glad to have that tool around. One of the pieces I need to make a little bit bigger, a little wider than it is, so I'm using some of this quick drying glue and just blue tape, all you're gonna need. I mean, this fast setting glue is really awesome. Within about 15 or 20 minutes, this was workable. I took it out of the clamps and it was not fully cured, but good enough to work. So that's a time saver for sure. You see, I've got some green dominoes going on there, a couple of molds I'm experimenting with. I don't think those are gonna make it in this video, but maybe something later. But now it's time to turn our attention to get this piece down to where we need it to be. Now, instead of taking measurements from dominoes, I'm gonna go ahead and just join them all together. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I was so frustrated that I did that. I thought I could just turn them over with compression, and no, it doesn't work that way. Anyway, back to the build. Got the dominoes all taped up, and I'm gonna make some marks that are gonna be just a little bit larger than the space that all the dominoes put in that shape take up. Make sense? So they don't just compress into the box. They can fit in there with a little bit of wiggle room, and that should be fine. Okay, so to join this together, I'm just gonna use CA glue, that's all. I'm gonna put a bead on one side and then a bead on the other. And then I'm gonna take the piece in the middle, spray some activator on it, and go ahead and place these up. I will say, the edges are a little oversized than the base. The reason being, is because I'm gonna come over here to the disc sander, I'm gonna trim them up. Okay, now with the base made, we're gonna go ahead and cut the sides. Real simply, I'm just gonna make one cut and repeat that. And again, I'm cutting these a bit oversized. That way when they're installed, I can go back over to the disc sander and sand everything flush. But man, I tell you, CA glue, such a time saver here, especially for a project like this. Now, I wouldn't put CA glue on a structural, I don't know, bar stool or chair or even table. I might do it temporarily, but mechanical fasteners or wood glue are what you want to use. However, for a project like this, it's perfect. Now, you see I've got a loose fitting piece of plywood here. I'm going to use this piece of plywood to actually make the mold that is going to be the lid for that box, but more on that later. So at this point, I'm gonna load everything up just to make sure it fits, and we're good to go. Looks good, it's just barely in there, and yeah, this is looking pretty good. Now, honestly, you can make a lid out of wood, but what would be the fun in that? No, I'm just kidding. There is a place for that for sure. But this is a resin project, and I'm gonna challenge myself to make a mold and to really kind of think outside the box here and try to see what I can do to make something interesting, something visually appealing, maybe not the prettiest thing on the planet, but I think this is gonna be a pretty cool idea. So I'm gonna cut pieces of plywood and wrap them in Tyvek tape and make a mold, pretty simply. Now I'm gonna join this together with more CA glue. That's all I'm gonna use here. And then when this is completed, I'm gonna go ahead and trim this to size here at the table saw. You're gonna see, I'm gonna go ahead and trim the edges. And basically what you're looking at is a reverse mold of what I want. Now we're gonna trim up the bottom or tape up the bottom so there's just no leaks whatsoever. And now it's time to go ahead and mix up some resin. But first, these are those green dominoes you saw earlier. We're gonna place these in the mold with a little bit of CA glue. And now it's time to pour some clear. Mix it up, pour it in. Take your time. There's gonna be a few bubbles that may come to the surface. And that's okay. You just take a heat gun or a blowtorch. In this instance, I'm just using a heat gun. It's a little bit, I would say, a more gentle heat. Really does the job nicely. And then I made a mistake. And I realized it at this point, and let me explain exactly what happened. So check this out. Okay, if you've noticed here, I'm gonna bring you in here. Let's just stop for 1 second. I wanted this to be the opposite. The lid I was making, I wanted the green dominoes to be facing upwards, and instead I mistakenly placed them downwards, which created a bit of a problem, and well, it kind of expanded my thinking a little bit on how I'm gonna fix this. So what I'm about to show you is I take this piece once I demold it and run it through the table saw a few different ways and create another recess where the lid now is reversible. Pretty cool thing. So let me show you how I did that. Okay, so you got the explanation, and now I'm gonna show you the execution here. I thought I needed a reversed clamp to go ahead and pry this out of the mold, but turns out Tyvek tape is pretty non-stick to this stuff, and I was able to remove it by hand. But before I take the entire mold off, I'm realizing I'm gonna trim up a little bit just to make this a bit easier on myself. Now, some of the shots in this video, you might be thinking my fingers are getting pretty close to the table saw blade. However, sometimes I feel like I have better control when I use my hands, and I know they're not gonna touch the blade, than I do if I'm using some type of push stick, especially on a piece this small. So just keep that in mind. Again, work at your own discretion, but that's my thought on that. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just say that because I don't want you guys to worry about my little fingers. All right, cool. Okay, so you see the lid, it actually fits, and I'm pleased with how it fits, but the focal point is completely hidden, and that's not good. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna make a few marks, I'm gonna cut it to the size of the box, and then what I'm trying to do, at least my attempt is gonna be, is I'm gonna try to make a rabbit around the entire piece on the bottom, on the white side, that's gonna represent the same as the top. So right now I'm just trimming it to size. As you see, I got my crosscut slab back out, and I'm gonna go ahead and raise the blade up right here by about 1/8 of an inch. And I'm gonna make a few passes, moving the fence over, and that's gonna create one side of the rabbit all the way around the bottom. I'll give you a better shot of it here as I use a miter gauge to kind of get the edges as well. So at least this is my thought, and I think it's gonna work, at least it should in theory. So there it is. There's 4 rabbited edges on a piece of resin, and hopefully this is gonna make up for the mistake I made. And yeah, I think so. Pretty nice fit as well, I must say. And I'm pretty happy with how this is coming out so far, but it does need some final touches. So we're gonna sand this thing down, and I'm gonna make a specific sanding block for this piece of resin. simply I'm going to take a piece of plywood. I'll show you here. I'll take a piece of plywood and I'm going to CA glue. Here it is. CA glue some sandpaper right to one surface. So I've got 190 completely covered in sandpaper. Then I'm going to take this is 240 by the way. I'm going to take this on the edges and it's going to sand the top and the bottom of that 90 degree, or the left and right, whatever you want to call it. I realized that I need a bit stronger sandpaper, a little bit coarser grit. So I'm going to do the same procedure with some 120 on the other side. And repeating this back and forth, it really did a nice job on the lid of this piece. And it allowed me also to chamfer the edges at the same time, having a long sanding block like this. All right, now it's time to bring the workpiece to the sanding block. We're gonna sand the edges down a little bit, but at the end of the day, it does need to be hand sanded quite a bit with some 220, and I'm just gonna spend about 20 or 30 minutes doing that to the lid and the box as well. I'm gonna start with my random Morbid sander, but I find in the end, it's best to kind of hand sand and break all the edges on these projects, especially little trinket projects like this. And now it's time for some finish. So I'm gambling here on doing a hard wax oil, not just on the mahogany, which is great. Odie's oil is fantastic. You can get it at your local, well, if you have a Woodcraft, you can order it from Rockler. There's all kinds of places you can find it. They don't quite sell it at Home Depot yet, or the big box stores, but maybe one day, who knows. It works great, and I'm trying to take a little gamble here and use it on the resin lid too, and I was glad I did. It worked really well. So honestly, you just rub it in and then you buff it off with a rag. It's really that simple, and it created a stunning effect on the box and the lid. So here it is. Check it out. Go. Oh, yeah. High five. Nice job.
And you can do it.
I'll do it next. Okay.
Ta-ta.
Ta-ta. That's right.
I have 3.
You do.
And I'm going to give 0.
You want 0? Why don't you dump them out here? Uh-oh. Nice work.
Oh, no. Oh, dots are gone.
What? All the dots are gone. Let me see. There's no dots on that one? You're right. There are no dots. But there's plenty of dots over here.
Yes. There's 2. There's 2. And gave you an ice cream.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Oh, no.
Thank you so much. You want some? Oh, don't lick that. Well, I guess you can. We're just playing.
But they're empty. But you got 4.
I have 4?
You have 4.
I do. You want to tell everybody goodbye? Hey, you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Look here. Hey, look here. All right, tell everybody goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. This project, well, it tested my skill just a little bit in terms of, was I going to be able to react to redo the lid, or could I do something where I can make it reversible? And as you saw here, this conversation piece is actually, it's actually cooler than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, just kind of one of those things where you kind of fly by the seat of your pants, you do something with resin, you have a little fun, and turns out you got a pretty cool piece. Also, I want to say I do apologize for the lack of content on this channel right now. I've got a lot going on here, just personally. This channel will continue to manifest and make videos, but I just want to say that I've got a few things in the works here, and I appreciate your patience. Now, that being said, I do have a smaller second channel. I'm going to link it down below. It's called A Closer Glimpse. It's a bit more of a intimate side, more of a conversational channel where I talk about the projects I'm making and maybe give you a sneak peek into what I'm doing here on the channel as well. So check it out, join down below, look to see you then. Look to see you then. Look forward to see you then. Again, my name's Chris, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Until then, y'all get out there and make something. Just do it. Make something cool. Is this cool? I think it is. See y'all later.